Here we are.
Hello, we are back.
It's been a while again. We've been busy.
I take full responsibility.
No, we're not going to.
It's for me, my schedule.
No. Peggy and I've been doing a whole bunch. Oh, never mind. No.
I know. One of the biggest things you guys did was the march, the No Kings March.
Yes, we did.
Yes,
I
we
was
did.
so wishing I was there.
Yes.
Well, I sent an email. Did you get the email I sent this morning?
No.
There's one on August 9th, and it's called Death to Democracy. And they want everybody to make, like, instead of posters in the shape of tombstones, you could dress like with funeral clothes, and it's going to be in Port Jefferson Station.
Oh, is it? Okay,
Yeah.
let me look up
Now,
my
that's
schedule.
where
then.
Lisa lives.
Yeah, I know. So
Oh, that
I
was
did.
good.
I tagged her on Facebook with it
Oh,
because I
good.
didn't have her
Okay.
email address.
All right.
I didn't check my email today, so it's probably in there. And I'll
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just have to register. You don't have to, but I always do so
Well,
they have
just
an
real
idea.
quick, this is 101.
Oh, yes.
101.
101.
So we got
That's
over
right.
the hump of the
We should have
100.
dressed as Dalmatians.
Yeah.
Okay, I did want. Okay, yeah, and so we've been doing the rallies, and we're going to be going on July 5th.
July 5th, we're going to one in Huntington.
Huntington.
The day after 4th of July.
Yeah,
Okay,
there's one
so-
on 4th of July too. First
I
we were
can't
going to
do
go
that
to that. And then we said, there's one, when she said, there's one closer in Huntington on July 5th.
Okay,
So we opted
interesting.
for that.
All
Because the
right.
one on the 4th of July is in Medford, and that's a hike.
Okay.
Yeah, from where
It's out
we
by
are.
Shirley. It's far.
Yeah. So Shirley's not a person; it's the town. Here,
Shirley, you must be joking.
So, ladies, what's going on?
Oh, just the same old fascist shit from this Republican
Say that 3
administration.
times.
I can't. I have a hard time even just saying fascist
Yeah.
sometimes.
Just fashion.
I try to put the C before the S.
Right.
When we were at the rally and they were saying no fascism,
Oh, yeah.
I kept on saying it incorrectly. I said, thank God nobody could hear me because everybody was
Well,
shouting.
when they were saying no kings, no crowns, no,
no
fascism,
fascism. Yeah.
I kept thinking they were saying no clowns, and then I went, oh wait, no, but it kind
Well,
of
yeah, it worked.
But yeah, it was like,
That
oh,
worked.
no crowns. Okay.
Yeah.
But
The
anyway,
clowns
Yeah.
would work, and then it reminds me of that song. Oh wait,
No clowns
they're
in crowns.
already here.
yes,
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we can
the
say no
clowns.
clowns in crowns. Maybe I'll make a sign with
No
that on
clowns
it.
No clowns in crowns.
Yeah.
That could be.
That would be a good
That's
one.
a good one.
Yeah,
But we're here-
you
Yeah.
just
I'm going to
whipping them
think of
out.
some good
Yeah.
funeral ones.
For those of you who know, Peggy is our sign designer. She's the one who comes up with the slogan. She's the one who makes them. And even at the last No Kings, or even though I wasn't there, she showed me pictures. It rained for everyone. And she had covered them in plastic.
I
So
bought those
you-
cellophane
yeah.
like shirt envelopes
Yes.
they are. They're 11 by 14.
Perfect.
I said, oh my God, that's the size of the signs. They slipped right over it.
Yeah.
I have all the signs in the rain, not one drop.
See that?
I know.
She's very
Oh no, it's a lot of
dedicated.
drops, but none on your side.
Yeah, exactly. There were plenty of drops on us.
Yeah, we got quite
Yeah.
drenched, but that's okay.
We all have rain gear.
Yeah, and it's, you know what? It's, please.
So anyway, this just opened up the world to more terrorism. That's
Yes.
my take on it.
Right.
Something really bad is going to happen because of this.
Because of what happened
because-
yesterday.
Well, you didn't say.
We didn't say what it
You
was.
didn't say what
Yeah,
Yesterday.
because yesterday the bombing of the
Right.
Iran.
I know Iran, but I was going to say the nuclear sites by us after Trump was in negotiation with them, and then all of a sudden he made this decision
On his own.
without Congress. He only informed a few members of Republican Congress.
Right.
He did not tell I think he's the head, Jim Hines. He's the head of the Intelligence Committee. He found out about it on a Twitter. On X, he found out about it. So he didn't consult with any Democrats at all, only a couple of Republicans, and went on and did it without Congress.
Go ahead.
Did you hear Pete Hegseth speak today?
I
about it?
didn't. I saw a little clip of him, but I
There was
wasn't in the
a
room.
journalist asked him a question wanting to know if Congress was notified and when they were notified. And interestingly, he didn't specify when or who. However, he did say, it was in full compliance with the War
Emergency
Power
Act, yeah.
And I said, well, how do when I looked up the War Powers Act, it requires.
An emergency.
It's a federal law intended to check the president's power, right? It requires the president to notify Congress within 48 hours of sending troops into military action and prohibits armed forces from remaining for more than 60 days without congressional authorization.
Approval, right. And it has to be like we're under imminent danger.
Right.
And we're not.
Exactly.
It's supposed to be an emergency action. We have to do this now, otherwise we're in danger.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, John Bolton thinks it was a great thing he did. John
Well,
Bolton
he's
said
a warmonger
he was
anyway.
saying
Even though he's
how-
not pro-Trump anymore, it doesn't matter.
he was saying that this is something that's been in the works even before Trump. So it's going to insult Trump that, it's not really something that he planned, but it has been planned. But who knows? I think more and more details will come out over time. We have to sort out what's factual.
Yeah,
what's
I know,
not.
and it won't matter anyway
it
because
draws
he'll
us
get away with it.
Right.
Yeah.
It draws us into this
Oh,
this confrontation
dangerous situation.
that was up until now between
Israel
and
and
Iran.
Iran.
And then if you heard Ted Cruz, and I think we talked about it a little bit yesterday when we met up at somewhere else, that it was Ted Cruz's explanation was, yes, we have to get involved essentially because the Bible
that's right.
commands us to defend Israel.
Yeah.
That is not an emergency. That is his take, and that's not a government sanctioned
And that's been something
explanation
for years
or it
and
shouldn't
years.
be.
Yeah.
He's a jerk anyway.
Yeah. For years
Also,
and
did you
years.
hear Vance, what he said?
I tried to ignore him.
Well, he
I
said
wish I could.
that, of course he defended the action, and he said this, has been going on for years and years, but all of the past presidents who dealt with it, they were all dumb. He actually said those words.
He's been very provocative lately, including
Lately?
calling, like willfully, just out. He's not even trying to hide how disrespectful he is.
Right.
He called the senator by the wrong name, the one who was.
Oh,
Okay, Brenda, I didn't write down the name. I shouldn't talk, but he purposely called him by a different name.
Yeah.
And he did it not once, but he did it more than once, and it was purposeful.
yeah.
I
And
would
this is-
turn it right around on him and say, "Oh, you're so stupid. Don't you even know the senator's name?"
But
Like,
nobody corrected
Nobody
him.
ever
Nobody's
does that.
standing up for him. And this is a person, Vance worked with him. He's the head of the Congress, the Senate
Yeah.
now. And you're telling me you really don't know his name,
Yeah.
or are you purposely doing it? And I think I heard, and I didn't
he's
verify
taking
this,
after Trump.
that by changing the first name, because he called him
Yeah.
Jose, it's actually the name of a criminal.
Oh my God.
And
So people will look up that name and say
Exactly.
it's a criminal.
It's just a joke.
Yeah, and that's right out of the Trump playbook, though.
Yeah.
He's,
You know,
he's
making
so
fun of people,
disrespectful, and
changing
it's
their
so
names
disheartening that these are the people.
It's very
that
scary.
are
I
leading the
really do
country.
think Iran, as of right now, said that they're not going to back down. So they're not going to come back and negotiate. The foreign minister to Iran was on an interview with somebody from CNN, I forget his name, one of the journalists. And, he said, I'm not going to say what's going to happen because that's up to the military. But Iran wants Persia back because they had the Persian Empire.
Of course.
And that's what they think that they could still be that.
It's scary
And this
times.
regime just hates Israel and the United States so much. So we'll
Very
see
good,
what's
very
going to
good.
happen. I mean, hopefully the worst doesn't happen. I'm not hoping for terrorist attacks just to prove Donald Trump wrong.
Oh no,
But, you know,
no! I know what you're saying. Yeah.
He thinks he's
No.
a hero right now, and I think he
Oh well,
just
he
put
wants
the
the
whole
Nobel
world in
Peace
danger.
Prize.
Yeah.
That's what he wants, which is so. Please, how about some wine, gals?
I could use some wine.
And so, I have a Pinot Grigio.
Oh no.
I have to go get my son some. I actually like this one. I've
Do
had
you?
this one before.
We were talking.
You girls.
know, I
always
like
wanna
them,
make
But that's
comments.
only fair because we've given you Chardonnay, and I know you don't like
Excuse me.
Chardonnay.
No, actually, I had this quite a few times a few years ago, and Samantha used to drink Pinot Grigio, and I'm pretty sure that it used to come in a different bottle, though, the Santa Margarita.
No, I remember this one, but unless it's
They
like
make it in
Asian.
Oh,
a
no.
large bottle.
They have,
Yeah.
I know what it is. They also make Prosecco,
Oh, do you?
and it comes
Okay.
like in a
Oh,
nicer
okay.
bottle.
All right.
My
Well-
sister loves Pinot Grigio, and my mother does. I just don't care usually for Pinot Grigio.
Well, it's a Santa Margarita, and it's
I've bought it before.
and it's from it's 2023,
It smells good.
and let's see,
It's got very good legs.
Judy, it's got good
It's
legs.
got good legs.
It
So
smells
do
good.
I.
And this is Italian, yes.
Yes, yes, and let's see, it is all right. Well, all right. It only has one fruit that I could find in the description. Can you tell me what fruit?
Grapes.
Grapes.
Nope. Oh yeah, it has two fruits. That's hysterical.
You win.
It's funny that we both said it at the same time.
Can you?
Okay, let me smell it.
All right, let's smell and then taste. Lacey, stop. All right. Well, to the strings of democracy.
I already took a
Please.
sip.
That's the whole time.
Well, now we're not going to have democracy at all.
Yeah, because that's gonna do it.
Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
reason why.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say apples.
I don't want to block you. What are you going to say, Judy?
Pears?
I almost said pears, but I switched it to apple.
Like, oh, it could be Granny Smith. It's a bit soury, maybe.
Well, it is an apple, but it's not Granny Smith.
It's green apples. Oh, there's Granny
I
Smith.
thought of that song. Green apples under the...
Crab apple?
There is a green apple song. Little green apples.
God did make
Make
little green apples.
Yeah, that. Okay, no, golden delicious apples.
Okay.
Oh,
And it can go with cheeses and seafood and that kind of thing. And you're
I like
hating
it. No, I like it. I still like it after all these
Pinot
years.
Grigio to me.
No, to me it's more full bodied than I've had other Pinot Grigios that go down like water.
I mean, I will drink it. You know, I mean, that's fine. It's just not my
No, I like
my
it.
thing, my taste.
Yes,
Oh, I'm
so-
not. I didn't look.
Oh,
But
you didn't look?
I
Okay.
didn't see
Oh, okay.
alcohol.
Right. What do you think?
I think it's got to
14.
be. Oh, I'm
What'd you
going
say?
lower.
14.
Okay.
I'm doing 12.75.
She's close.
Really?
Wow.
The
Yeah.
legs were so much bigger. I thought it
Yeah.
would be at least 13.
That's for tannins, the legs.
Oh.
Not that
Oh,
I
really?
really understand it,
Yeah.
but.
Oh, you do more than I do. Price point?
I bought this before.
Oh, I
think
have
it's like
to. I'm gonna go.
$14.
I'm gonna do $16.99.
No, I got it at Stu Leonard's and I got it because I'm a member or whatever, so it's cheaper. It can go anywhere from $20 to $25.
Oh,
And
okay.
I paid 20.
Yeah,
Okay.
So,
it's good.
yeah, so
There's another Pinot Grigio that's pretty good too. It's called Chris, Kris. I've had
Oh,
that,
that I
and that's
did
good.
buy.
My sister Mary Ellen used to drink it every time she came to visit. I always had that in stock for her, and it's good.
There's something with Pinot Grigio where it just after I sip it and swallow
Yeah.
it does something in the back of my throat which almost makes me want to like.
Oh,
well,
really?
Take it back up.
then don't do
I don't. I like no, but again, I don't drink it. But no, I don't know what it. I wish I knew what
Wow.
that was.
See, I'm like
Yeah.
that. I think with Chardonnay, it's like it just constricts my throat in a way. I
Oh,
feel
okay.
It's very,
So, yeah.
very strange.
I'm not like that with anyone, pretty much.
She just strings that.
And unless sweet, I don't like Moscato or anything like that.
Riesling.
Yeah, so,
Riesling.
yeah,
Yeah.
Riesling, a Sauvignon Blanc.
No, I don't mind Sauvignon
I mean,
Blanc.
I don't mind a Sauvignon Blanc.
Wow.
I could even drink a Riesling if I had to.
Oh, so-
I had a Riesling once that Samantha dared me to like it. She said, "You're gonna like this," and I said, "No, I'm not because I hate it." And it was a more expensive
Was
one.
it in that flower bottle?
I don't remember. You know, it wasn't a flower bottle. I would have remembered that. I think you're thinking of Summer Blush, though. Wolfer Estates. That's a rosé,
Okay.
not a Riesling. and it was very good. I never would have thought it was Riesling because it was very dry and it didn't have that.
If you remember
Like German
or you
taste,
learn
I
it,
don't
let
know.
me know because I'll buy it. Because I have some people in my circle that
It was
like
years
Riesling.
ago. She's
Okay.
not going to remember either.
Oh, all right.
But it was a more expensive, Riesling, very dry. So,
Well, out of 5 wildflowers,
oh, I like this one enough to give it a nice 4.
wow.
I'd give it a 3.5. It's not the worst Pinot Grigio I've had.
You know what? This is good for day drinking.
So is the red wine.
This is no, because this is so light and it's crisp, but it isn't acidic.
I can see that. Yes. All right.
And you probably, if you were eating some of those cheese and crackers that I had,
I
you
can bring.
probably-
I'm gonna bring you a slice of cheese. Well,
Yeah,
I won't. I'll bring the plate.
yeah,
I'm not gonna.
bring the plate.
I
Guys,
am.
we were saying how we weren't going to be eating on camera, but you know what? That might be changing right now.
That's okay.
Yeah,
That's all right.
Yeah, that's
We're all here.
Yeah.
Might as well.
Yeah, that
Okay.
down and
So-
yeah.
So okay, so how many? Make sure Peggy can reach too. How many wildflowers? Oh, we
Oh, I
already
said
said.
I would do
Yeah.
4,
Oh,
4
that's
and a half. I really do like it. I would actually buy this.
We did say.
I know
that.
I bought it. Like
Yeah.
I said, I know I bought this for
I
people
haven't
in my
had it in
family.
years, but
I'll
it's
say
good.
3.75
Okay. There we are. I think that's fair enough.
because and
I'll
again,
probably buy it again for my party on.
Really?
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, well, because I have to buy Pinot for my guests. That's what they like.
They said
Pinot
it's
Grigio.
enjoyed as an aperitif too.
Yes, would you like to?
No, aperitif, that's before or after.
That's
Aperitif is-
oh.
Let me look that up.
I think that's
After,
after.
yeah, maybe after.
Could be.
We're so knowledgeable about
Yeah.
wines.
We do our research before we get on camera. Can you tell?
It is a light alcoholic drink consumed before a meal to stimulate
See, we
the
knew
appetite.
that. We
There
were
we
just.
The word comes from the Latin meaning to open. Okay, that makes sense. All right.
The two of us.
Well, I like it.
Yeah, okay.
I'll bring it home if you don't want it.
I'm so glad that you.
One thing I wanted to, before we move on to the book real quick, because I just read something in the New York, I wanted to talk on Banter. One thing,
okay.
I just, it was about, it was a quick little thing about harkening back to Bloomingdale's. Remember how Bloomingdale's used to, we gotta go to Bloomies, and
Right.
how it
They
had
have
so much.
their bags.
But apparently on Wall Street in March, a store called Printemps opened up, which were
what?
Printemps, Printemps, which is kind of remembering, it's drawing nostalgia similar to Bloomingdale's for this reader. And I was thinking, and it's a French-based company. And I wish I would have known, because when I went to Paris last month, I would have checked it out. But I was wondering if you had heard of it or had seen
I
it.
have vaguely heard something about this, and I don't know why or where. But
Okay. We might have to take, because the way they describe it, there's artwork, there's a lot of different rooms. Anyway, it sounds very interesting, so I think we should check it out.
And that's where in the city?
Wall Street.
Oh,
It
okay.
says where does it say? At 1 Wall Street.
Oh,
It opened up in March. So,
Good.
yeah, we might
Check it
have
out.
to check
I
that
did
out.
We could go to Francis Tavern and have lunch.
That would
Over there.
That would be
That'd be
fun.
nice.
On game.
Well, we have to pick a time to do it now,
Yes.
because otherwise it's never going to happen.
I know. Well, we can't do it right
I
now.
have. Yeah. No. I have.
Because we have
question.
we're
Like
taking-
after the podcast.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. This is my question. I don't know when you wanted to talk about this on camera or not.
What is it? I can't read your writing.
Let me.
No, not yet. Not,
Oh,
not
okay.
yet. Let me wait until
Oh,
it's
what was
confirmed. Yeah. I think I understand what you're saying. By the next time we tape, I should know more
Supreme.
details.
Shh, no,
Don't say
no,
that.
no.
Well, I'm just
Oh!
not yet. Let's
Okay.
wait.
Well, you have to tell us the date, though.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Yeah.
do know the date, but I have
Okay.
to wait till I get a confirmatory email.
All right,
Okay, well, give us the date anyway, even
All right.
before it's
Yeah.
confirmed, so we can start planning and
Will do.
getting
Well, and
train tickets and figuring out where we're going to stay.
But we're
Wish
not telling
do,
you
but
in
we're not
advance.
telling you
Yeah,
yet.
no,
I know. It's very exciting news.
I penciled my calendar already, so I won't take any dogs in.
Oh, okay, great.
That was my concern.
Thank you.
All right. Anyway, so
Wait a minute. I have a word.
Oh, you scared me. I'm like, oh, what? We're not gonna be able to do what we were gonna
This word came up. I do the I think it came up. Where the hell did I see this word? It was one of the puzzles that I do.
Okay.
So it wasn't Wordle. So it must have been in the mini crossword.
Oh, I love the mini crossword.
And no, it was spelling bee.
Oh,
it was
like
in
that.
spelling bee. It was a word that I didn't get. And the next day you could look and see what word you missed.
Oh, okay.
And I said, heel tap.
Heel tap?
Spell it.
Yeah, HEELTAP.
Where
Heel
you
tap.
bend down and touch your heel. Or you heel tap them together. Like in Dorothy, I want to go home.
Or yeah, like you click your heels.
Yeah, but it isn't that. It is close though. It pertains to shoes.
Oh.
It's
that makes
one
sense.
of the layers of leather or other material of which a shoe heel is made. And it made me think, Jesus Christ, there's a word for fucking everything.
I
that
was
you don't-
just gonna say
There's a word
that.
for everything. Like one layer of your heel, that's a heel tap.
So
you
when
know
I
how they
go-
layer them all together?
When I go to DSW, I'm gonna say to them, now, do you have any shoes with the heel tap?
No, but they all have a heel tap.
They all
You have to
have-
say, do you have any shoes that have leather heel taps?
Oh, okay.
Because it's the layers of the heel. It can be leather or any other material
Or
that
you
they
can
make
ask,
it out.
do you know what the heel tap is made out of?
Yeah. Or there's another meaning, a second meaning of the word, which I think is
She
very
loves
cool.
to keep us in drama.
I know. I wish that we had something. If I was finishing this wine, I'm not going to guzzle it.
Right.
Okay? A heel tap is also, I'm going to use it all the time, an amount of liquor left at the bottom of a glass after drinking.
You know?
Isn't that so cool? Like when you're putting your wine glass in the sink at night, you look and there's that tiny little dot. That's
I
a heel tap.
suck that
Like
way.
you lick it off, right?
Like the dregs. Like, isn't
Yeah,
that
it's like
dregs of it?
the little
Yeah,
tiny
yeah.
bit of liquor
that's
that you
heel
leave in the
tap.
bottom of your glass. A heel tap.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
No, I think that is fun to learn. And you're absolutely right. There's a word for everything.
Yeah.
You know, and like instead of saying, oh, that thingy.
Yeah.
Oh, that little, you know, that.
Yeah.
And one of the words that I missed in the puzzle was patella.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
said patella.
That's for your
and
knee.
it's exactly
Yeah.
it's the anatomical name
bone.
for your kneecap.
Yeah.
Yes. That's
So,
my anatomy
so,
and physiology
yeah.
coming
I
out.
did.
Yeah.
I had heard the word. And I was like,
I know. When I saw it, I said, I know.
I had in my mind. I had a string of ships and a patella. That's what
That's
I
a marmota or a flotilla, right?
When my daughters were really little, when Daphne was very small, so she's probably 3 years of age, and she would say, "Mommy, my homolt hurts. My homolt
Your
hurts."
homolt?
And I said, "What's a homolt?" And where? And she points the ball of her lip, the top lip, the ball, like where the lip
Oh.
connects.
Wait, is that a real word?
No, I looked it up. No, but she made up this word. So now in our household, this is a homolt.
This has a name
This
too.
has a name, but not this part.
Right. And I can't remember the name of this part, that little
I forget.
indent up there, because
That's
you see it
hysterical.
in some paintings. And there was a painting
Oh my God, I'm
of
having this.
Jesus that my mother had this painting hanging up, and it was very pronounced. I think the man next door was an artist. I think he painted it and gave it to my mom. And I remember, I can't remember the name of this part.
Yeah, I know.
It's that
I
little
looked it up.
indent. I'm gonna have to
Yeah, we'll
check
have to
it
look
out.
it up again. But yeah, no, it's
So
it's
many
good.
words.
So many words.
All
Yes,
right.
indeed.
And
Okay.
then there
All
are words
words
in your book.
Yes, there's
Hey,
plenty of words.
we had the same
Oh, so now it's book. That was
Yep.
the segue to the book.
Yes.
Okay, so anyway, I read this book a couple of months ago, so bear with me. And there's a lot that I can't say about it because there's so many things going on. I'm afraid I'm going to give away, plots.
Right.
Okay, so the name of the book is Broken Country, and it's by Clare Leslie Hall, and it was a Reese's book club book. And I was in Theodore's books, so this was a couple of months back, and I said, all right, what I'm going to read, and there was a woman, another customer, and she went up to the counter, and she had 2 books, and one of them was by Jodi Picoult, and it was called, what's that expression, Shakespeare? With as any other name, not as.
What? A book by
A book, a
by-
rose as rose, by any other name
Oh, okay.
was the name of it, by any other name.
Okay.
And then this book, Broken Country. And she told me both of the books. She said, the Jodi Picoult's. I said, I don't really like Jodi Picoult's books. So she said, no, this is historical fiction, and it's about William Shakespeare.
Oh.
So I said, okay, and it's about, I could bring that up at another book club discussion. But anyway, and then she had Broken Country. And so many people in the bookstore were there, like Sherry was there, and they said, oh my God, Sherry said, Peggy, it was one of the best books I've read in years.
Really?
So this book takes place in rural England and farmland. And the main characters, the main character is a woman, and it starts out when she's a teenager. So this book goes from like 1958 to like 1968.
Okay, good time.
And as a teenager, she meets this boy who also lives in this area, but he's rich.
Mm-hmm.
They live in this big, gigantic estate. And they meet by accident one day because she likes to go wandering around in the woods and down by the river. And they meet by accident one day, and they start talking, and they become very, very good friends, and then they fall in love. She's 16, I think he's 16 or 17. They're like the same age. What else can I say about it without giving anything away? Then it jumps to 10 years later, and she's married to somebody else, and she lives on a farm adjoining this estate to this man named Frank, and they have a kid. I think I gave something away there, but it's very hard to explain this book. So this is what I'm going to say about it. It's a love story, but not cheesy at all.
Good.
It's about rediscovering your love, your soulmate, because years later, after they hadn't seen each other in a decade, they meet up again, and as soon as they see each other, they realize, wow, we were meant to be together, even though the man that she married was a wonderful man. He's an author. He becomes a famous author.
Oh, wow.
And there is a murder. There's a trial. This book has like everything that you want a book
She's
to have.
so excited.
And that's what I'm saying. This was every once in a while you get a book and you can't wait till it's time to read.
Yeah.
I said, oh my God, all right, I'm going to go outside and read now. And like you,
I love
and
that.
it's getting dark out and you have to say,
oh,
okay, I better go
longer.
inside. This is a wonderful, wonderful story. It's so well written and it's engrossing. And of course, there's always a part of every plot that I think, oh, did you make a mistake? What the hell who would make that choice? But anyway, I do that all the time. I'm very, very critical of characters.
Yes, and how it ends. And don't you leave something untied up, because that's going to be a big problem.
Wants to be in control.
Exactly, but like Carol always points out to me, then there would be no story if they didn't make that decision.
Or sequel or prequel. Or
exactly.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend
How
it.
many wildflowers?
I give this 5 wildflowers. I really, really loved it. I'm trying to remember. I think this was her debut novel.
Wow.
And I think it's been on the bestseller list of New York Times.
Haven't seen
has
this,
it?
and I'm in the
pretty
store
sure.
all the time. The
I'm
bookstores
pretty
all the
sure
time.
this is her debut. But anyway, it's great.
Now, I wonder
She
if they're going
lives
to
in
turn that into
England.
a movie.
It would make a great movie
Because-
because there's a whole trial in it too.
It reminded the way you talked about it. She had the other book that we read was Where the Crawdads Sing. And
Yes,
that ended up
uh-huh.
on Reese's
Mhm,
thing,
right.
and
Yeah.
then there was the movie
Yeah.
because of that.
Right,
so.
right.
Yeah, this is her U.S. debut, so evidently
Oh.
she's written books that were published
Well,
in
it's funny.
England.
It's funny when you mentioned how, it's a long lost love that you reconnect with or whatever, because I used to watch every Friday night, they don't have it on PBS anymore, As Time Goes By, with Judy Dench
Oh.
and Jeffrey, I
Don't
forget
know
his
that.
name.
I never watched it, but I remember when
Oh.
it was on.
It was just so easy to watch. It was just one of those, you enjoyed it, and it was like how he was in the war and the letters got lost, and she thought he gave up on her, and it was
Oh,
like,
that's
and
so
he thought she
heartbreaking.
didn't answer
Yeah.
him,
Yeah.
and then they get together, and it's just it. I love that, so I would enjoy reading that. I
Yeah,
wanna read that.
yeah, you would. I'll lend it to you.
Okay.
I'm done with it. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
you will tear through that book because it's tragic too. I mean, there's so many tragedies in it and so many things that could have been avoided.
But see, here's what I find fascinating, because usually you get annoyed, you're like, no, I wouldn't have done that, no, and then, but here
You
you're
do.
like, I love it, it could have
That's
been
great
avoided,
then.
but yeah.
Well, I did that with before she was a Finley.
Yes,
Like
yeah.
I couldn't stop reading it, but I
Yeah.
said, "Oh no, I would not have done that." And Carol said, "Peggy, then
But that's when you know
the
a book
story.
is good, that
Yeah.
you still love it. Because, you know, me, I would have
Right.
loved, certain characters to do different things.
Yeah.
Or
Right. But that
raves
means
and
you're
stuff.
invested
You're
in
involved.
I'm in
Exactly.
And then I'm like, oh, but you still love it. I still
Yeah.
think that Reese should pick up that book before
Can I
she was
tell
a
you
Finley
something?
and make
Yes,
it. Yeah.
yes.
Peggy found Grace Finley in another book.
In Jaws, I'm
What do you
reading
mean?
Jaws right now, and there's a character in Jaws named Grace Finley.
Finley.
No
So I
way.
took a picture of it, of the sentence, and I texted it to Carol.
And I
Oh,
couldn't
that's
see because I had to keep turning my phone, and then I saw the Grace Finley. I'm like,
Yeah.
what book is that
She
in?
made it to. You know what? I'm going to talk about Jaws now, I guess. I'm not going to do that because we don't have enough time. But anyway, in the movie, Jaws took place in New England, didn't it?
Well,
It was New England, but it was
Martha's-
called Amity Beach.
Yeah.
In the book, it's on Long Island.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never
Well,
realized that before.
It's
I
funny
love the
you
book.
say that because when I was growing up, my parents had a copy of the mass market version of,
Yeah, I think that's
of
what I
Jaws.
read, the mass market.
And it was in the basement bookshelf. We had in our basement where I would do roller skate. We had a pool table down there. And I would always take out the book to look at it. And it's at Amity Beach and Long Island. And that started my fear because I grew up in Amity Harbor.
Oh, okay.
And my beach was Amity Harbor Beach.
Right.
And so I thought it took
Yeah.
place in Amity
Right.
Harbor Beach.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that was very
it's a
scary.
50-year anniversary of it coming out, so
Yes.
so-
So anyway, it was also a question on Jeopardy the other night.
yes, it was.
And they just gave you the cover of the book, and they had to know the answer what book it was. It was this model
Yeah.
laid up flat on like plywood or something, and looked like she was swimming on the surface of the water. And I'm saying, oh my God, that sounds so familiar. And the
Jaws.
answer was Jaws. And then I said, you idiot. I went over to my bookcase. I had just bought it. And I looked at it and I said, of course it was Jaws.
That's
Yeah.
funny. Yeah.
So-
I'll never get that scene, the first scene
The
where
opening
she,
scene.
when she goes like that in the water, and then she go and I'm like, so
Do it
whenever
again?
yeah, whenever I'm in a pool, I do that.
I know. I think I've told you guys that story when I went to see Jaws when I was in the movie theater.
Right, me too.
And it was me and Maureen and Roy and Jimmy. And of course, it was the 70s, so we smoked a joint before we went in. And the opening scene of the movie, when that happened, the four of us in unison got up and ran into the lobby.
No.
We were like, oh my God! And we're in the lobby, said, should we go back? Should we go back? Should we just get in the car and go home? And we did end up going back into the movie theater, but we
Oh
must
my
have looked like
I did that.
crazy people.
I did that in Deer Hunter. I ran out crying.
I never
was
saw.
just
I wouldn't watch
No, I
that
didn't.
one.
And
hysterical crying.
But I did take my kids a couple years ago to the movies here in Farmingdale to see Jaws when they were doing a
Oh,
show.
okay.
My bad parent, I was like, let's
No,
go in and
Jaws
see
is
Jaws.
great. Well, Carol and I are doing an event in July with Robert Shore's grandson,
Nephew.
Oh,
and
really?
he wrote
His nephew.
Oh, nephew?
his nephew, Robert Shore's relative.
Right.
Same
And
here.
he wrote a book about Robert Shore and the background to Jaws and
Yeah.
what was going on during the filming. Isn't that it?
Yeah, I didn't read the book yet, but
Yeah.
but yeah, no, it sounds.
And we're doing that at Oceanside Library. I forgot what date,
Ocean.
July
Ocean.
22nd.
Oceanside,
Yeah, that's why we picked them.
and they're gonna show the movie.
They're gonna,
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Anyway, but that's
Okay, sorry.
No,
No,
don't be
that was
sorry.
a good review.
Don't forget, you're leaving that here with me.
Oh, yes, I am.
But you can.
I'll
yeah,
put it
that's
right
fine.
here.
Okay,
All right, guys.
so Judy's got the topic, and Peggy and I don't know what she's going to talk about.
I think I told you yesterday that it's a little more serious, I guess. It was prompted by recent events. What's been in the news a lot is the Kilmore Abrego Garcia case. This was Maryland man who had legal status here since 2019. He was from El Salvador originally, but had obtained legal status here in 2019 due to fear of prosecution if he was returned to his country. And despite that, he was illegally sent to El Salvador.
And he is a family man, right? He has a wife and
got
like
a
5
wife,
kids
he's got
or something.
Kids. And he was sent along with a whole bunch of other immigrants without due process of law, without being, able to challenge the deportation, just all going. And there was a series of legal challenges immediately because of that. And I'm just trying to read my notes.
Okay.
The Supreme Court initially temporarily paused the lower court's ruling order for the United States government to return him initially, right? But then in April 2025, the Supreme Court said the lower court's ruling that required the government to facilitate the order. That's what the lower court ruling said, to facilitate the return. The Supreme Court said it was proper, that order was proper. And it was a unanimous Supreme Court ruling, 9-0.
Right.
Okay, upholding that lower court decision that the government had to facilitate the return of Kilmore Abrego Garcia from El Salvador back to the United States. The government pushed back, claiming, essentially, it was up to El Salvador to return him.
I remember that.
Okay,
He even
we all
said
know.
it
I'm
during the
framing
press
this.
conference.
Yeah.
Not
Yes,
everybody
right.
listening might know all the
right.
details.
And, this is, what he said. So, and, the Supreme Court is, in essence, relies on the executive branch of government to enforce, but the president and is the executive branch. He's the head. So it made me really start thinking, putting my legal hat on a little bit, to think, what happens if the Supreme Court decisions aren't followed? And has that ever happened before?
Right.
And it has.
I was just gonna say.
It has. And I know there's been some writings on it recently, but I didn't read those. Well, I started stumbling upon it in a recent book that I read, which I'll talk about at the next podcast. But the very first time this happened was in 1832 under the presidency of Andrew Jackson. Surprise.
That's Trump loves him.
Right, and it makes me realize
Isn't that
why
crazy?
Jackson is such a hero to this administration. Really, the stuff that Jackson did was
especially to the
insane.
indigenous people.
Well, that's what this case is. The case that I'm going to talk about, I want to know it because I wasn't fully aware of it. And I thought I'd talk about a little bit about it. It's called Worcester v. Georgia. Now, Worcester was a missionary. That was his
W-O-R.
Yeah, like the city in Massachusetts, Worcester.
Right,
yeah,
okay.
W-O-R-C-E-S-T-E-R versus Georgia, the state of Georgia, right?
Okay.
So, Georgia. Okay, so let me give a little background on Worcester. Worcester was one of about a dozen missionaries living in Cherokee Nation over on in Cherokee Nation territory outside the border. That's the 1830, early outside of Georgia's boundaries, right? But as we know, the history of our country is really atrocious to Native Americans, and the settlers and the government never enforced those treaties, or stopped its own settlers from encroaching on the land that was by treaty given, agreed to be the Native Americans. And so these missionaries lived amongst the Cherokee people and were very pro-Cherokee and helped the Cherokee people fight back, against the encroachment of the settlers, against the states, against, helping them try to navigate what they could to try to prevent further tensions and encroachment. That pissed off Georgia, really, and so Georgia enacted a law. Georgia enacted a law saying that prohibited non-Native Americans from being present in native lands without a license from the state.
Oh my God.
Okay, and so Worcester was one of the
What do
plaintiffs.
you mean non-Native Americans?
Non-Native Americans. So Worcester was a white settler. He was a white missionary.
Oh, so they didn't want the missionaries there helping.
So now that they were living
you.
in the you got it now.
Yeah, I had
Yeah.
to.
Right,
Yeah.
I know it takes a little bit.
Okay.
Worcester was one of the missionaries who were supportive. I went through that, blah, blah, blah. And so they eventually, so once that law went into place, Georgia arrested all 12 of these men. And they were sentenced, after trial, they were sentenced to 4 years of hard labor in Georgia. Now, 10, I believe, of those missionaries ended up getting a pardon. And immediately they were offered pardons. 10 of those missionaries took the pardons because they were trying to, Georgia was trying to make a point.
Right.
2 of them, Worcester and another man named Butler, said, no. We're going to use this as we're going to stay in jail and we're going to use this to help and make some law. And it ended up being appealed and all the way up to the Supreme Court, hence this decision in 1832. So Chief Justice John Marshall ruled that the state statute was unconstitutional. Only the federal government can negotiate with Native Americans, right? Georgia cannot set laws on who can live in Native territory. Now, that's for the federal government and the Native Americans to decide. Georgia can't do that. So that law was unconstitutional, and the Supreme Court ordered Georgia to overturn the convictions and release Worcester and Butler. They didn't do it. The immediate reaction of President Jackson was, John Marshall has made his decision, now let him enforce it.
Oh, Jesus.
That was his quote. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
It's up to El Salvador to return them.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Wow.
So, it's important to know your history, people, right? This has all been done before, all right? And so this is what we're modeling here. So Georgia refused to release them, and Worcester and Butler remained in prison, okay? So this was about March of 1832 when this decision came out, all right? So they were eventually freed several months later in December of 1832. A lot of stuff happened, like politically, there was political stuff going on, and people were really putting pressure on both sides to kind of get this resolved before it became more of an issue. But Georgia eventually in December, right before Christmas, repealed the law, which then, so now they proved the point. Okay. Yeah. So at that point, then it gave Butler and Worcester the opportunity to petition for a pardon. They didn't overturn the conviction, but they let them petition for a pardon, and they got it. But it was a really important case because it was one of the first ones establishing the sovereignty of Native American rights within our country. So Jackson's resistance and Georgia's resistance, however, which is important, it wasn't just something to say, oh, Jackson was being tough or Georgia was being tough and it had no consequence. It had a lot of consequences because Jackson showing that he could resist and that there was nothing to be done about it led directly, all historians agree, to the Trail of Tears. Which was the forced relocation of the Cherokee Nation and much other ones, which I could talk about another time because I really would like to do a piece on that. The Cherokees alone, there was 16,000 Cherokee people, men, women, children, babies, sick, elderly, forced march in the dead of winter. Over 50% of them died.
Yeah.
And that was a direct result from this case and this act of defiance by a president defying a Supreme Court.
Yep, it's a power grab.
Those aren't the only one. I'm not going to go into details about the other one, but you might surprise you. Abraham Lincoln defied the Supreme Court. We all think of him. We all think of him as being
not my Abraham Lincoln.
He suspended the writ of habeas corpus. Supreme Court considered it a violation of constitutional rights, but without getting the consent of Congress in a particular case. Franklin D. Roosevelt did it. He was upset about the way the court had ruled on some New Deal issues. So he was one of the first people to consider getting around this by court packing the justices, and maybe changing Franklin D. Roosevelt was one of them to try to get around that. But Jackson was the one who started this precedent. Yeah. And we see now here, it's not a coincidence why the current administration wants to hold Jackson up on a pedestal.
Yeah,
because for a lot of reasons, but this is one of them. And it made me think, we've all heard the term constitutional crisis that's been throwing us around lately. Because I'm like, what can we do if a Supreme Court makes a ruling and the president doesn't do it? They could hold him in contempt of court.
Right.
do fines, I jail maybe, but I mean, you need somebody to enforce that, right? You need a militia, you need the government really to get behind it. Congress can amend statutes, but that's contingent on the political will. And right now we have a Republican-controlled House, Senate. There's nobody to stop him now.
Nope.
Oh,
nope.
no.
There's
To
too
stop
much
this
fear among
administration.
Republicans that they're not going to stand against him.
So when we talk about constitutional crisis, the prospect is real. This isn't just worrying. This is because there are no breaks.
Yeah.
Anymore.
There's no
nobody
safeguards.
to check him
There's
anymore.
no checks, no balances.
And I mean him. I don't really mean the president, because at the end of the day, it's a puppet.
Yeah.
It's the people behind the president and the agenda that's doing it. And there's nobody to stop what's happening because of Congress is being sold out.
Yeah.
And the weaponization of our own military. We see what's happening in California with the National Guard.
Yep.
It's
only
a
gonna get
scary
worse.
time. Funny, Jackson, after he made that quote about let's see if Judge Marshall can enforce the law, he just said, let's see if he orders me to use the military, I'll send in the Massachusetts militia. Because the militia, he was only going to use northern state militia because they were against Jackson's. So again,
okay.
we see the play of Democrats versus Republicans that we see here today.
Yep.
It's all been done before.
Right.
Yeah.
It has all been done
Yeah,
before.
and I think that what you said before too is know our history.
Yes.
Because it does sort of comfort me to know that we survived that. Well, the people didn't survive that.
Many people didn't
They
survive,
didn't survive that. Yeah, no, I know. I didn't mean it that way. I really didn't.
Democracy survived. We still have a democracy,
thank you.
but now it's being eroded again.
Right.
And I don't know if we can survive it this time.
But it makes me think, what's our trail of tears coming next?
Yeah.
Well, that's the
Because
immigrants.
That's the immigrants.
Yep,
in our-
they're
in
the
this
trail of tears.
Current trail of tears, because that's what happens next. That's what was the direct result.
And Democratic senators, if they want an answer to something, that they can be arrested and put in handcuffs and knocked to the floor.
Or being shot in their homes.
Yep.
Yeah, that
That's
little
a-
minor thing. Yeah.
You know what? It was an assassination, and no one's talking about it.
Our president did not make any statement publicly about that.
And all he
Oh,
said-
yes, he did.
Oh, did he? I didn't see
He
it.
criticized Waltz.
Waltz,
What
yeah.
a crappy
Oh, did he?
governor he was. That's what
He
that's
goes-
what he turned it into.
And he goes, it'd be a waste of time for me
I'm not
call
gonna call him. I'm not
Shame
gonna
on
call
you.
him.
Shame on you
He's
for
a
that.
disgraceful human being.
Yep.
He
not
is.
Walls, not Walls. She
No.
doesn't mean Walls. I want to make that clear. You're talking about
Yeah, we're talking about the
T-Rump.
president in charge.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
president of the United States not making a show of compassion or a plea to the public to not
whether you're
do
president
that
or not.
action against our elected
be a human being.
officials.
It's
No, but when he was shot, right?
Oh my
you
God.
saw President Biden come out
Yes.
and make a plea to the public that this
Exactly.
is not how we treat our political rivals,
Right.
or whatever. But there was a message being sent to try to calm everybody
That's
down.
right.
That didn't happen here.
No.
What did he do? He
Because
fanned the
they
flames.
weren't-
Yeah.
They weren't his backers.
right. They weren't loyalists.
Exactly.
And how does that? Is that the type of person compassionately we should have? But we don't. We
we
can
don't.
go there another.
Yeah.
We've been there. We've talked about that, and
But no, it's very interesting, and I know that you said a couple of times
Yeah.
that there's more things that you can expand upon this.
oh, there's so much more. But I know we kind of went over it. But and this
Right,
was
no.
the gist of it. I just wanted us to be aware where this precedent started,
Right.
what happens, what can be done.
And the main
and the
difference
history.
then is that there wasn't any social media. There wasn't, the internet and all these,
Like the conspiracies
Conspiracies
couldn't
theories.
fly.
right, yeah, exactly. So, I'm sure there were conspiracies too.
Oh,
in the
sure there
past.
were,
there
but it's
were
nothing
their
like
pamphlets,
today.
you know,
But
they
not-
have
I mean,
all of
today it's like instantaneous.
Exactly,
You know?
exactly. Well, thank you, Judy.
Oh, you're
Yes, it was a
welcome.
good discussion.
Oh, good.
this
I'm
is-
glad you enjoyed
This
it.
was 101,
Yeah.
Yes.
our, podcast, and so we'll be doing the 102, which Peggy will be doing the wine, Judy will be doing the book, and I'll be doing the topic. So we hope you come back.
See you next time.
Okay.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So long.
Puppies.
See ya.
You already ate
Bye.
puppies.
Good. morning? Is that what they
To you.
say?
Hope you had a good
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Peggy's waiting.